Hello, it's time for a new episode of B2B e-commerce integrated. I'm Arno, Chief Product Officer here at Sana Commerce. And in this podcast, it's all about B2B commerce. And in today's episode, we have Michael Vax, and he has a lot of experience in the B2B e-commerce space since he worked at 3 different vendors, Spryker, Hybrids or SAP Commerce Cloud, and Elastic Path. So he have seen a lot of customers and a lot of projects coming by. So if you want to get any tips on why B2B e-commerce projects fail, or what is his vision on the current B2B e-commerce landscape, do not hesitate to watch the video or listen this podcast further. If you are a product guy like me, so a product owner or chief product officer, it's also great to watch this episode since he will share a couple of learnings on this topic as well. For example, how to deal with the fact that all customers have different needs and how you can solve that in building a product or a platform. You can find the podcast in the mainstream channels such as Spotify, YouTube, Apple, and Google with the name B2B e-commerce integrated. So yeah, have fun. Hi, Michael. Welcome to the show. I'm very honored that we have you here today.
Well, Arno, it's my pleasure. I kind of started following your podcast before I knew you personally, so I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. So yeah, you have so much experience. We just discussed it a bit in the pre-talk we had, but experience on product development in tech and mostly in software. You have 35 plus years experience in the space of tech and B2B, various companies. So we're just laughing a bit because you have more experience than almost more experience than I have life years, let's say so. So I think we can learn, all the listeners can learn a lot today. So let's start from the beginning. So how did you start your career? What inspired you to go into product development or in tech in general? I think you started as a developer, right?
Yeah, I started as a developer and actually work as developer and architect for kind of first, let's say, I don't know, half of my career, at least. Even like by education, I'm in a degree in physics and lasers, but I always worked in development. And this idea of kind of solving complex logical challenges and creating something that didn't exist before was really appealing to me. So I worked as developer, was even part of first internet boom where I was architect and later became CTO of this company. When we developed a web-based email and calendar, and it was 2000, it was kind of really very, very new web applications there, very exciting and interesting. And at that time, also kind of my career took a bit of turn, and I was joking that I crossed on the dark side, and instead of writing code, started to manage people. And that led also in 2008 to kind of my first exposure to e-commerce. I became a CTO of a Canadian company called Elastic Path, which is still one of the e-commerce platform on Gartner Quadrant and so on. So this was kind of my first exposure to e-commerce many years ago. But even at that time, when I was joining, I was like, okay, there's nothing to do there. Like, it's just a shopping cart, press add to cart button and you're done, yeah? And here we are, probably like 15 years later, and there's still this continuous stream of innovation that goes in our industry, which is very exciting, yeah? And since then, I actually stick with e-commerce and worked for other e-commerce platform company like Hybrids, which is a SAP Commerce Cloud now. I was VP of product at Spryker. I was a company called Web Interpreter, which kind of for small merchants localizing their stores and all of that. And yeah, I think the industry keeps growing, new challenges to solve. So I think we can probably continue working in this area for quite a long time and still enjoy it.
No, definitely. And huge example. So I'm a product guy as well. And I think a lot of things that I like as well. I started as a developer myself as well. Made the switch pretty soon also to manage people in that indeed, or to, let's say, I would always say bridge the gap between business and tech. But it is. And then also I started with e-commerce, and I never let go because it's so interesting. And I think we are here in the right moment of time that this, where it was just starting, what you started a little bit earlier, but when it's just started, this whole e-commerce thing, if it's just B2C or later on B2B, and where it is now, it is still, continue to evolve, and it is the major way of doing business, right? It's not about digital commerce anymore. It is the commerce, or it is the marketing.
Commerce, every aspect of it.
No, interesting, and we will have a lot of interesting insights, hopefully, from you today. So let's start with one of the questions I had is, let's say, one of the biggest lessons you learned from all of these projects or product you work on, let's say. So, and that's maybe a big question, but maybe you have a story to tell or something to share with us.
Probably too many stories to tell. So, but one thing, especially, is talking about kind of customer projects and what customers are implemented. One of the main lessons I learned is that they're all different.
Yeah.
As soon as you kind of go into more like bigger businesses or business in different industries, they're different. And it's good to know standard implementation patterns and functionality. But I think we need to appreciate this uniqueness of each business, and tailor solutions to its needs. And that's, I think, where real value is delivered. And if I can go with the second lesson,
sure.
That's kind of more that lessons that I learned, that many companies stop the implementation too early.
Okay.
And you probably saw it as well. I think from one side, we're all fans of this approach, of agile approach, and kind of doing MVP and all of that. But I think people who are less experienced in that, they overemphasize minimum and underemphasize viable. Okay. So it's really people are great at starting. They break into smaller things. They're getting it released. But then they see this as a project versus that's a product that's constantly growing, in industries that's constantly evolving, that adds new features, that vendors are producing with better ways of doing this. And they sometimes come to the dead end. And the other kind of danger I see is, and I really want to write more about this, is that in a rush to implement this first release and get online as early as possible, that people sometimes making not spending enough time to thinking about actually how it's going to look at the end. So there's nothing wrong. It's very good to move forward with kind of the small steps. But steps should go towards your end goal, not completely aside. And it's difficult. It's really you need to have expertise to understand how to strike this balance. Because the worst thing you can do is to have this first implementation, to get it ready as soon as possible. And then you either stuck in the dead end, or you need to spend more time to actually redoing this because you actually wanted to go into different direction. So that's is other things that I see sometimes more often that I would like to.
No, definitely. So I think two important things, two lessons that you shared. So I think the first one is that all about, let's say, realize that every project or every customer is different. Although you want to as a SaaS product, or maybe as it doesn't matter what kind of product, but let's take e-commerce platforms. You want to bring all the customers on the same product, obviously, but you need to understand, I think, as a product person, but maybe also as a B2B customer, that there are uniqueness things that make your organization as good as it is, right? So that and if you embrace it, or if you can indeed support that in the product that you're supplying, then you can increase the value for that customer. I understand. And is this also something like a lifeline that you have, or a best practice that you have, let's say, used or implemented with Elastic Path, with Spryker, or with that you always were looking to enhance the product to make it extensible, or to give the customers a unique feeling, or to implement that unique part for some extent?
Yes, absolutely. That's again, if returning, going from platform to kind of more, from project to platform development. Because you in this business, and I was doing this as well. That's very difficult balance, because you don't want to, like, one of the main kind of guidelines I was giving to product managers in my team is that if a year from now, the only way you can explain why is this feature in the product is because some customer asked for it, you haven't done your job. Because and it happens. We're under a lot of pressure. There's a very good reason to get the best for important customers and all of that. But as platform developers, we need to be doing something that works for most of customers. Each feature should have reason to be in the product. And behave in the way that it behaves based on what market needs, how it will use. So that's the first thing. And the second, because we're doing platform for neither you or I was working for Shopify, where kind of it's out of box and here you go, use it this way. We're working for businesses which are unique. So the question is, when you're developing things, you also need to think how it can be adopted, modified, changed to fit different industries, different user conditions. This is a difficult balance to feel, and I'm sure you know it's firsthand.
No, of course, that's my daily struggle, I would say, right? I think that is the never-ending product dilemma that you have. Resources are limited. There are always wishes, and but I think one of the things, at least we are doing with Sana, or with or in general, I have only a small part of experience. You have more, but I think we have some things is to have some principles in that sense, that you can guide that defines your DNA of the product. And on one hand, and that is also really related to the market that you are of course targeting. And with Sana, for sure, we have coming actually from long time from an agency background. It was hard to get rid of all those custom wishes from customers, but now, since we are 100% SaaS organization, we had to, and that was just by defining, let's say, some principles. Let's say, everything that we build or what we will release is for all customers, or should be benefit for all customers in some kind of way. And that can also mean that you make something extensible or flexible, so that all customers can give their own spin to it, right? So that if you are in fashion, you want to maybe do your content or your B2B buying behavior in a different way than if you are in chemicals. But still, if you implement then a feature, if we talk about features, at least we have one of the first principles here is that you build, how I guide my product managers, product owners, is that we build it for all. They should all benefit in some way, and we are not taking a feature just because there's one big customer coming in there and say, I need this. Because I think on the long run, if you build software products like this now in the SaaS world, it will always hurt.
And some technical debt is going to kill you sooner or later.
Yes. And also if you look at it from a customer perspective, so if you're implementing a B2B platform, then I think there is this big trend now. Of course, everybody wants SaaS and wants to keep it standard, but that is good. You need to do it. But on the other hand, don't forget about what made you unique as a B2B business. And don't think about 20 or 100 or 300 things that make you unique, but find that one thing or two things and focus on that, because most of the time that will fit in a platform like with Sana. If we find it together with the customer, and we can make a special, and sometimes can be in an advantage in how things are being shipped or something, or how it's being calculated or to be shipped. These kind of details can be there, and that can make your uniqueness in comparison with the competition, or it can be in assortments, these kind of things. Yeah. So
and you took very special approach. So your customers. Definitely, it's great that you have these principles and applying them.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So, and the other lesson is also of what you mentioned is that you do not need to always keep the dot on the horizon in there, and I think that counts both for doing product development like we are doing. I think it's very important to keep that North Star, and we call it actually a BHAG, but that is another principle. But the North Star is maybe easier to understand. So just know where you want to go, but for customers that are starting with B2B or are evolving their B2B platforms, I think it's indeed also an important lesson that you share to keep that North Star, because often it's just like a one-off project, or but now in the world where digital commerce or B2B commerce is commerce, I think you continuously need to evolve and work on it, and not see it as a one-time project and that can fail or can start or and so on. So that's another one, good one. So great start already. So talking a little bit more about B2B e-commerce. So what do you think of the current B2B e-commerce landscape? And we can talk about it very, very broad. It can be about what trends do you see, or about technologies. Just your expert view on it.
Generally, the word that comes to my mind is kind of booming, exploding, growing. That's I think the best way to describe it, which is really interesting, because it was several years ago. It was a niche, with a really small number of vendors focusing on it. Like, for example, Hybrids had B2B solution for a long time, but most of the vendors were saying, we can do B2B versus we are B2B focused. And now I know, and I'm sure I don't know all of them, but probably know close to 10 B2B focused companies who just doing B2B. And many B2C vendors also started to move to B2B. Like when I was at Spryker, it took us at least 2 years to implement kind of basic B2B, not basic, but kind of sufficient B2B functionality. So that's good. I think that's definitely from technology perspective, from vendor perspective, everybody recognize that's the next frontier. There's more opportunities there, that's growing and so on. And I think the same happened from customers, and I'm sure you also see this, and it positively affects your business. That kind of two things came together. I think pandemic, of course, when all my salespeople cannot travel. What do I do? And also this generational change in both buyers. Because there's a generation that comes and controls these buying decisions, both budget and also people who are actually doing this purchasing. It's an internet native generation. And they're all spoiled by great customer service, customer experience, usability, easy to do, easy to follow as a personal experience. And then they come and see these old interfaces, or I need to pick up the phone and call somebody and place the order. I cannot find information. They sending me printed materials and all that. So this disbalance between generations that expect online commerce or access to information in some way or another, and companies who were not used to provide it. I think that's another huge trigger that really made B2B booming. And I think also from technology perspective, we solved most of the complex problem And now, even because B2B is always complexity, we can talk endless about it, but we know how to solve them. Yeah, we know how to sell complex services, product and services, products that requires kind of consulting type selling and all of that. So it all came together. So I think B2B e-commerce landscape is super exciting place to be now.
No, that's for sure. That's for sure. And couldn't agree more. There is a lot of momentum from all directions. So there are more vendors. Customers are taking it more serious, or it's now just part of their business. Once again, it's not digital commerce, but it is their commerce. It is their marketing, also for B2B. And so that's definitely have changed the B2B landscape rapidly. I think the last year. So everything is in full speed now. In the end, I think it makes the world in that sense a better place in that you can do your if you support these customers or these B2B buyers, they need to spend less time, or there is less traveling needed from salespeople to go to in the old-fashioned way to go in the car and go visit 10 customers to get in the orders. That is I think that is
salespeople become more productive. That's about it. It's not e-commerce versus sales team. It's e-commerce helping sales team to deliver better service to their customers.
No, correct. So definitely really nice to be in this generation or in this on this wave. So talking maybe a little bit more about complexity in B2B. So you have obviously a lot of experience and by implementing B2B functionality on the platforms that you named when they were starting with it. So according to your experience and talks with companies or the projects you work on, so how does e-commerce or B2B e-commerce and integrations revolutionize the business, or how important is it, or what can you share about that?
I think B2B is inherently more complex than B2C. Obviously, comes from different reasons why it's more complex. First of all, you're selling to organizations, so there's multiple people involved in buying process. I think Gartner identifies 6 steps every company goes through to make a decision. And as soon as you have these multiple people involved, you're immediately talking about roles, permissions, workflows, longer sales cycle, kind of going back and forth, as well as communication with the customer, which tremendously more complex than, okay, I'm buyer, I need this chair, I go to the site, press buy button, done. May ask my wife or may not. So that is definitely adds a lot of complexity. And the other side is, of course, more complex product. Like buying some equipment or even spare parts. Or some chemical, as you mentioned. I'm sure you have some customers in this area. It's just much more complex project. You have more complex catalog, more complex product definitions. You need to give customer additional help to discover this product, to understand what products they need. So obviously that adds to complexity. And the other thing I would say is you need to look at B2B as a process to optimize for productivity, because people are coming there to do their job. It's not like kind of, okay, I'm doing window browsing. I have a lot of things with my way. I'm a busy person. I'm professional. I need to do this. This is my requirement. I may not fully even understand them, but I need to solve this because I have millions of other things to do. And that's not easy to optimize and allow people to do bulk orders, negotiation, getting information fast, and all of that. So that's just several aspects of why where B2B complexity comes in, and vendors need to address it.
No, definitely. One of the things we are doing is, of course, a lot of this complexity we have seen that is already living in the backend systems of customers, right? So that is I think the way how we solve it is that we surface that to the B2B buyer with the intelligent storefront in that sense that is integrated fully in most of the time the ERP of the customer. So that's how we do it. A couple of other vendors also do it, or in hybrid forms in that sense that some parts is solved in the solution, some parts they take from other things. But I definitely agree with you that it's not only about it is also the automation process, right? That is often being forgotten. They all say it's about bringing orders in or solving to buy a complex product to solve that problem. But that's correct. But it is also about automation, and you want to make your sales force your salespeople more effective. For example, you want to evolve their or maybe a reduction on your support people, or optimizing that because nothing is so actually so bad if you have people doing repetitive tasks, and that cannot be solved by automation or in some form of
repetitive task using kind of a mainframe style interface. Nothing would make modern person day than this.
Exactly, they will not be happy. So that is definitely there, and what we have seen as well is that you have a lot of knowledge in the B2B e-commerce space, so that you even started making courses. So you're now maybe you can share yourself, but you just launched a B2B course, or you're working on it, right? So what is it all about, or what are you doing in that area?
Sure. I'll probably start from my first course, which wasn't B2B. Kind of overall what motivated me to do it. Working with many companies, I recognized that there's a general lack of e-commerce skills. And it takes time to get this expertise. None of us becoming expert in something that we haven't tried before and all that. So we see e-commerce growing. More and more businesses want to implement digital commerce. And number of people who have expertise was not growing as fast. And if you don't have expertise, then you're missing opportunity to increase revenue because you're not implementing best practice. You may not even understand them. You're losing money because you cannot do your implementation takes a long time, because only fast implementation is driven by knowledge. And you're also running a lot of risk, because you may go in the wrong direction. You may make it without realizing this, not on purpose and all that. So I saw this kind of this skills gap. And there was a lot of courses on e-commerce marketing. That area is quite well covered. There was some training on for developers, mostly vendor specific. I want to be Magento developer, I want to be Spryker developer, I want to be Hybrids developer, but there was nothing about kind of e-commerce implementation, focus on e-commerce implementation, to give people what's e-commerce skills, what is e-commerce processes, what e-commerce functionality will exist, what you need or may need or don't need on your site, depending on what business you are. And this is a goal that I saw this gap. And then I wanted to really try to close it. Initially, I just started just collecting materials because, again, this is my unique experience working for free e-commerce platform companies kind of gave me that.
And head start,
and then I wanted to really do it. This is based, so I thought, it will take me, I don't know, a couple of months part-time, but of course it took much longer. So I developed my first course, which is called Digital Commerce for Your Business. It was published about 2 years ago. Since then, more than 200 professionals kind of graduated from it. And then I started to work on B2B course, which again was interrupted because I was doing something else. And this week, as you know, I achieved this milestone, and I actually
released it. Nice. It is there.
So It's really a program that explores in all great details of B2B commerce implementation and operations. It teaches you how B2B commerce is different, what B2B functionality you need, why it will benefit it, what's the options, how to do it, and all of that. It's not technical.
Okay.
So people who can be in different roles will benefit it. Any member of kind of e-commerce or digital commerce implementation team. From salespeople in agencies to developers in agency, because they hire great people with great expertise in their area.
Okay.
How develop, but they may not know kind of all e-commerce, and especially don't know B2B e-commerce. So I'm very excited that I managed to achieve it. I'm continued working on it, improving it. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. First of all, I think listening to your story about this course, I think we both agreed. So we do the same. We see the same with Sana, right? When we, especially in the B2B, I think for let's digest your answer a little bit. So indeed, there is quite some materials about how to optimize conversion rates and digital marketing and all that stuff. There is a lot about developing, coding and how to do that properly. But in between, how to do projects, how to be successful, maybe everything for the commerce persona that is leading that project, or you can say it is the e-commerce manager or head of or director of commerce. There is material indeed, but was missing, and you're filling that gap. So I think that's great. And I think we are with this podcast also sharing a lot of knowledge. So that's because there is a need. Yeah, there is
absolutely.
There is a need, and it's great if you share then indeed samples, because I've seen a couple of snippets and samples or your best practices, and I think you were also one of the perfect persons to do so, because you have seen 3 platforms and a lot of customers probably. So I think you mentioned there are each one around 400 different samples or pictures or something, right? So that you have
I was trying to illustrate. I was saying
I like that.
If you want to illustrate, you have configurable products. Okay. So maybe you have configurable product as a kind of you selling corporate wear. Like you have T-shirts with a Sana Commerce logo. It's one configurable product. Or you want to configure glasses. With different prescription, different frame, different length. Or you have configuring some complex part. For your machinery. So I'm trying to illustrate these patterns. Examples from different industries. Because again, commerce is different. Each product, each business unique, but there are patterns that if you know them, you can apply to your business and benefit from them.
No, definitely. So I think that is cool that you also. It's not only about describing what is, for example, product configuration, or what are subscriptions, or what is, let's say, tailored pricing and all that stuff, all those B2B topics, but you also feed them with samples. So that's cool. Hey, and if you look then at obstacles or challenges that B2B companies need to overcome, and we always love to talk about adoption, because hearing back from customers, especially when they have already tried the B2B e-commerce implementation, most of the time they are complaining or they want more adoption. That is, they say, why it's only 5% or 10% of our customer base is adopting the platform, which we just spent a lot of money in the past 3 years. And then they come to Sana or and they share that complaint. So, but what is your take on that? On what can companies do if they want to improve adoption?
I think your previous guest on podcast really put it there. We should respect our customers.
Yes.
And make it easy for them to do business with.
Yeah, you're referring to Curt Anderson.
Yes, referring to Curt, which is a really great quote. I fully kind of behind it. And also talk about this in my course as well, that in the web, your competitor is just click away. Like that's B2B, B2C, that's it. Like there's no monopolies people really can navigate. So sometimes I think people take the backend processes, how they work, and just put them online. Without rethinking them. But these processes were designed for your employees. They designed with assuming they have this internal knowledge. So while your customers are not. So you eliminating the salespeople who was translator from one language to another or from one process to another, and just throwing it to your customers. And customers say, what the heck is that? I cannot find things that I'm looking for. So just give you one of examples. In B2B in general, businesses used to only deal with the customers they already have contract or agreement with. Okay. So you're coming, let's say they put a website there, so potential customers coming there, no prices, no information, saying, okay, send me, fill this form, and let's establish contract relation. We evaluate your credit limit. This will take, I don't know, days, weeks, whatever, and then you can actually browse and see the problem. Sometimes there are good reasons for it. We don't want to show your price of competition, all of that. But there are also ways to do it. Why make it evil? Maybe some products you can sell without this verification. Maybe you allow customers to buy anonymously as a first purchase. You can limit payment method. Okay, don't take credit card, don't pay on an invoice and all of that. So that's one of the way how customers can make it really, really easier to do business with you. And then the millions of other things you can do. We talked about productivity. I'm a busy person. I want to do as quickly as possible. I don't want somebody to call me back to do initial research and all that. Then we both know the B2B buyers can buy in bulk. They may know these SKUs by heart. So you need to have special pages for them, for these bulk orders, for doing search by a SKU number versus just endless browsing and all of that, ability to reorder and all of that. So I think that is a really important steps. Make it easier and to do business with you, optimize for productivity, and also don't shy away from adopting some of the best B2C e-commerce techniques. Like B2C really knows how to promote things. So I recommend actually B2B organization to hire somebody who has B2C experience.
That's
and they bring different cultures there. They bring different approaches, and they can benefit from it.
Totally. I really like this part, and that is also what we see with our customers in that sense that if you are, because there is a funny fact here as well, because if you're taking that back-end processes approach, a lot of customers start from there and they end up with a requirements list like this, right? Because it's very unique. It was created over the years, and so on and so on. And also it will never fit most of the time on any platform, right? There is always then work to do. But if you turn it around and say, hey, but look from the outside, from what your customers actually expect in something simple, or why do you need to have this complex pricing model? And even with Sana, we can take all of that complexity. Most of the time, it's from an internal processes because there was some, commercial benefit for their sales force in the old ways how they were selling. But maybe in the new way, we can make it simpler, and we can still make the incentives for the salespeople that are involved or that are stimulating to sell or bring these customers online and buy stuff. But we can simplify it, and that is just one example. But you can think of many more. And in the end, if you change that perspective and that inside of that outside in approach, you can also reduce actually a lot of customization and start much quicker on a platform and be more successful. So
I think you actually brought very interesting points that I want to elaborate a bit on.
Sure.
Because what you said is how prepared is customer for digital transformation. And what you mentioned, and what I also saw with many B2B customers, there's a lot of kind of business process depth.
Not technical,
in the
that
existing
only.
process. They just accumulated it. Yeah, you mentioned there's many pricing lists. Yeah,
for example.
And when you start asking questions, most of people don't know how it's ended up. It's just due to historical reason, like things happened because it made sense 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and kind of you accumulated this. Many companies don't know the data. They may have bad quality of the data. Some of them may be duplicated, some of them missing, and all of that. And again, there's internal folklore and internal knowledge that helps to work around this problem. If you're doing inside organization, because yes, everybody knows this record is incorrect, but they know where to find the correct data. Yeah. But when you're pushing it to customers, it doesn't work. So I think this is a very important part, and you probably guys advising your customers the same way, is first do some cleanup. And you clean up, just do some, make sure your data are correct, see what you can simplify and all of that. And that is a big obstacle if you don't do it.
Even take it even a little bit further, but maybe you don't know, and a lot of the listeners will not know, but we have actually also tooling or let the system help to clean it up, or we can recognize, because we are so much in the ERP, we know that a lot of data issues are there in this ERP, and it's not something to be shy of or something like to be embarrassed, but every customer that we come across has that. It's just because a matter of these systems are being worked with people and they make mistakes. So but we can we thought, okay, let's invest in tooling and intelligence to spot these errors, and that can be that we can recognize that customers have the wrong taxation rules connected to it, or it's not valid anymore, or they cannot even order all those or the not the correct address details are connected to it. All those stuff we have intelligence around that saves our customers a lot of time. But just because it's coming from a problem, right? But thanks for elaborating. I think that was a very, very valuable part, and that is maybe also why a lot of B2B projects are failing, is that they are taking that they are not ready for the digital transformation and still have a lot of depth in their processes and also in the technology sometimes, but most of in the processes, and that they just want to make that copy from there to there, and not take the outside in perspective and really talk with the customers. What do you want? And that's something most of the time simpler than the internal processes. Okay. Time flies always when you're having fun. So, but the last question I have is an interesting one, because we started something new, and I asked Curt Anderson, so what you already mentioned, the previous guest in our podcast. So what question he wants to ask to the next guest, so to you. So, and he was talking about a lot by and he talking about the topics. He's saying find that niche, or finding the niche, and what he meant with that is that what is that unique thing or that you solved in a project or whatsoever in the B2B space. So that question is now also for you. So maybe you have a story or an example on the different platforms that you have worked, or on the different projects that you have worked, where you were really looking for, or that you had a problem, but you really niched it down, that you say, okay, we went to a very detail to solve something, and that made it unique, or then we found the value, let's say. So is there an example that you have to share, where you went into detail, or where you say, hey, this was an interesting area?
I think it's an interesting question. I read it's also kind of when you niche down and then went into a rabbit hole and had the courage to get out of it. One thing that I want to share from my experience at Hybrids. We were doing a lot of interesting work there of creating a commerce solution for different type of industries and different type of things. So the first was kind of B2C. I know in Hybrids at the time they were called accelerators. And so it was B2C first, then B2B solution. Then we implemented solution for telco, then for other services, financial, travel, and all of that. And every time when we were doing this, the easiest way to do it was to basically take the current version of the code, fork it, basically make a clone, and develop it. Yeah. And then that was fastest way to do it, like obviously. But at some point we ended up with a 4 version of the solution. Sales team was promoting this as a kind of everything works everywhere with one platform, which was not true at that point. And I was in charge of this industry-specific solution, and we needed to build financial accelerator for banks, insurance companies, and then travel industry was next, and government was next. And I said, okay, so it's a point nowhere because we were spending so much time maintaining all of that. We're having problem with customers because we're promising that this feature from B2C works in B2B and it doesn't. Yeah. So I took a decision. We put a kind of stop on it, and we said we're going to create standard platform. We're going to rework each of them to work on it. Yeah, which was a super scary decision. So we really we were on this hole. And I knew that we were releasing every 3 months, but I knew it will take me 6 months to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I need to put multiple teams on it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's not going to be done. And they said, okay, and after I'm done, think what I'm going to write in my release notes. Because what do you deliver to customer? Yeah. So we actually done it. I'm super proud of it. So all of them were brought to the same base, and then new were developed. That also allowed our partners to develop other solutions. What was surprising also to me is that there was such discrepancy between them that bundles and subscription were not available for B2C customers, for example, because they were developed inside Telco Accelerator.
Yeah.
So actually, my release notes were 3 pages on each solution, just because we enabled all this, we deliver all this value across all these platforms. So kind of this one of the funny stories that I carry.
No, of course, and sometimes you just have to make these bold choices, right? So, but I think it's good to for the product people listening, because I also know that they are listening to this podcast. Because sometimes we cover also product-related topics, is that I think it's 9 out of 10 times it's always a wise decision to focus on standardization, to bring things together and not have multiple solutions next to each other. Because at the end you will always, it looks sometimes like quick, but you always will end up in technical debt or
at some point,
at some point in time. So no, that's great. And if you sometimes we have that, or I've experienced small parts of these as well, because what I mentioned, we're coming from agency, so sometimes we could take these customizations rather quickly and bundle them, and then you have these moments in life as a product person that you can it sometimes feels too good to have a big release, like at least that it feels that you can give your salespeople and your customers a new perspective. Say, hey, look at in 6 months what we all achieved, right? So no, cool story. And and that was really a bold choice, and niching down to the problem, right? To bring it back to one solution. So what would be your question for if you have for the next guest? Something general about B2B or something about product, doesn't matter. We will see if he or she can answer it. Do you have an exciting question for him or her?
Sure. Yeah, because Curt gives me quite complex questions, so I want to pay back. So I want your next guest to give an example of B2B product or services that would be really challenging to sell online.
We will see if he or she can answer it, but that's a great question. Thank you. So summarizing a bit, it went really quick, but you shared some lessons about product management, product development, but also how you can apply them, I think, as a B2B store owner, so that you have that North Star, for example, but also a lot of other things about adoption, for example, on the platform Hybrids. You do not need to copy your backend processes, how it was there for years, but maybe look at from another perspective. Hire maybe a B2C person, and not to forget, also invest in in understanding the topic if you're new to it, and then the courses that you supply can be of great help. So I think it was a very nice and value session, Michael. So thank you very much, and wish you a pleasant day.
Thank you, Arno. It was not my pleasure. We put a kind of stop on it, and we said we're going to create standard platform. We're going to rework each of them to work on it. Yeah, which was a super scary decision. So we really we were on this hole. Mm-hmm. And I knew that we were releasing every 3 months, but I knew it will take me 6 months to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I need to put multiple teams on it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's not going to be done. And I said, okay, and after I'm done, think what I'm going to write in my release notes. Because what do you deliver to customer? Yeah. So we actually done it. I'm super proud of it. So all of them were brought to the same base, and then new were developed. That also allowed our partners to develop other solutions. What was surprising also to me is that because there was such discrepancy between them that bundles and subscription were not available for B2C customers, for example, because they were developed inside Telco Accelerator.
Yeah.
So actually, my release notes were 3 pages on each solution, just because we enabled all this, we deliver all this value across all these platforms. So kind of this one of the funny stories that I carry.
No, of course, and sometimes you just have to make these bold choices, right? So, but I think it's good to for the product people listening, because I also know that they are listening to this podcast, because sometimes we cover also product related topics. Is that I think it's 9 out of 10 times it's always a wise decision to focus on standardization, to bring things together and not have multiple solutions next to each other, because at the end you will always, it looks sometimes like quick, but you always will end up in technical debt or
at some point,
at some point in time. So no, that's great. And if you sometimes we have that, or I've experienced small parts of these as well, because I mentioned we're coming from agency, so sometimes we could take these customizations rather quickly and bundle them, and then you have these moments in life as a product person that you can. It sometimes feels too good to have a big release, like at least that it feels that you can give your salespeople and your customers a new perspective. Say, hey, look at in 6 months what we all achieved, right? So no, cool story, and and that was really a bold choice, and niching down to the problem, right? To bring it back to one solution. So, what would be your question for if you have for the next guest? Something general about B2B or something about product, doesn't matter. We will see if he or she can answer it. Do you have an exciting question for him or?
Sure. Yeah, because Curt gives me quite complex questions, so I want to pay back. So I want your next guest to give an example of B2B product or services that would be really challenging to sell online.
We will see if he or she can answer it, but that's a great question. Thank you. So summarizing a bit, it went really quick, but you shared some lessons about product management, product development, but also how you can apply them, I think, as a B2B store owner, so that you have that North Star, for example, but also a lot of other things about adoption, for example, on the platform Hybrids. You do not need to copy your backend processes, how it was there for years, but maybe look at from another perspective. Hire maybe a B2C person, and not to forget, also invest in understanding the topic if you're new to it, and then the courses that you supply can be of great help. So I think it was a very nice and value session, Michael. So thank you very much, and wish you a pleasant day.
Thank you, Arno. It was not my pleasure.